What's up, guys? Welcome back. Gonna get a video started on Jimmy Grooms' 63 Impala. He dropped off to get some work done. Most of you know Jimmy Grooms at Dark City Customs. He did all the body work on the Datsun over there. Did a really good job with that, helping us out years ago. So we've done a couple things for him since then, but he brings us the 63 Impala for a twin turbo system along with a couple other things. So fast forward, we missed the first part when he first dropped the car off, but this car runs and drives. He drove it in here and he brought us these turbos from VS Racing. I really don't know the details of them, but they're mirror image, which always makes a really nice layout in the engine bay. He actually had these manifolds on here already. These are a log manifold. I don't know the manufacturer, but they seem to be pretty nice. Really tight to the block. This car's got airbags, the whole deal. And that's one of the things that we have already addressed. We had to change these little bump stops right there and make them taller because the tie rod end was hitting the frame when it's set all the way down, and it can go lower than it is right now. That's just as low as it can go on the lift. But what he wants, he just wanted the turbos kind of clocked at kind of a 45 like this and run straight in. And I've got everything kind of mocked up. This is what I've done yesterday, is kind of got the turbos in position, or the day before I got them in position like he wanted them, and then I started running the piping, which on here we've got the same bend on both sides, just the leg is shorter or longer on this side than this side because the cylinder head orientation. But got everything tacked together in mock-up mode, and today probably going to play with a couple wastegate positions and try to get them where they need to be before we take anything apart to fully weld it. As far as the downpipes, I'm just kind of talking way ahead of where we're at right now, just to kind of tell you the plan. But the downpipes we're going to run along the brake master cylinder here and tuck tight to the frame and go down. They will have some like bullet mufflers or something on them to kind of tone down the volume just a little bit, but basically going to mirror it both sides. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to tie the wastegates back into the downpipes or not. I typically just dump them, but this is a street car and there's not really, depending on where I put them, there's not really a good place to drop the pipe straight down to the ground that it's not going to be right on top of the frame rail or something like that. Good view from the back. Got some really nice parts though. These Motion Raceworks dual seal clamps, they're pretty slick. I've messed with them I think on one other build, but I like how they have a triple hinge on them, makes them easy to get on and off. But I haven't took them all the way apart. They're probably just like every other dual seal. They're kind of finicky to get clamped together, but that's just par for the course on these things. We're going to be also doing the throttle cable, which he's got the bracket and stuff, and the pedal needs a little fabrication inside there to get it right. But this is a engine built by JAC, or Jonathan Atkins, his new business since he sold Tick. And this has got Tick's intercooler on it. We're also going to be doing an ice tank or something like that, maybe a heat exchanger. The list could go on as far as the stuff on this. This does have air conditioning. It's got the vintage air stuff. That's another thing we had to do that we kind of fast forwarded by, is the radiator had to be trimmed out, this area in the core support, and it leaned forward at the bottom to clear the steering box down there. It was, whenever he brought the car, it was actually just kind of sitting on here, the front end, and it was pulled forward a lot because there wasn't any clearance for the radiator and the steering box. So already trimmed that out right in here and moved everything forward. This is the AC condenser, got it mocked up in there to make sure we have enough room. So that's kind of the plan, or the list of stuff we got to do. I'll show you the interior of this thing. It's a pretty nice little ride. He's done a bunch of stuff to it already, but it's still in primer and stuff. There's no point to paint anything until the very end, especially if it's going to be in a dusty shop. See? So let's get to work, see what we can get done on it. So we've got everything mocked up as far as the cold side and the hot side feeding the turbos. Got the wastegates put on there. Originally I had them straight up, but Jimmy's afraid he's not going to have room for his AC lines. Kind of how he's got in mind. He's going to route them, so we laid them over to the side a little bit to give him a little bit more room. I've not cut any of these holes yet. Most of the time whenever I'm mocking something up like this, I've said in my other videos, I'll get the pipe fit like I want. I'll trace around it with a Sharpie, and then as far as cutting the hole and welding it, doing all that stuff, I'll do it all at one time off the car, rather than putting it on, take it back off, and all that stuff. Just do all you can in one motion, not one motion, but at one time here, before having to do too much extra labor with assembly and stuff. But in saying that, I'm glad I mentioned it, because I almost forgot the blow-off valves. So I'm going to mock those up as well before I take this apart, and get his approval on the location that he wants those, which we already got a pretty good idea. But I like to send messages back and forth with the customers and make sure it's looking like they want it to look. I've got my own ideas always, and I try to push people in a direction where it's going to work best for them and also look good. But some customers have a very certain way, specific way that they want things to look, and so I try to honor that and not just blow through their requests there. So the downpipes, this is just some pieces I had in the back. They're going to kind of run straight back and kind of hug the master cylinder there. Wastegates are going to tie back into them. And we're going to put some mufflers on. But this setup's going pretty quick. Jimmy helped us out by getting us started with the manifolds, and he already kind of knew what he wanted when he got here. He said put them at an angle, short cold side, the whole deal. So that's what we're doing. So let's get these blow-off valves mocked up and get this stuff a little apart and start welding it. just like with most turbo kits, took the plasma and blow these holes out. You'll notice that I put these on here. I think this is the one that goes in there. So I put them on and I took a Sharpie marker and drew around it. And I always cut inside this line with the plasma. See, I got some trash in there I gotta smooth up. But I cut inside the line, that way I can sneak up on it with the little Christmas tree sander there. With the plasma, it's kind of, you know, it's piping around and kind of getting in weird positions. You don't want that thing to accidentally blow out the side and get across your pipe. So stay a little bit small with it. That way you can always grow the hole. So let's make some dust. Short break in the time lapse to show you the finished welded manifolds. I normally always put a gusset on the waste gates, but on these I did them kind of like I did my car. I used a bend where it still comes off at an angle, but it also has a little foot or a little boot on there, which gets a lot of weld engagement around there. So just, I'm not going to put a gusset on these because I don't think it needs it. Plus they're going to be sitting pretty much vertical, so I think it'll be good. So we're going to put everything back together now. The cold side, these manifolds, get them on the car for good, and we'll show you what that looks like. Alright, we got everything back on the car. Manifolds are bolted up for good. Turbos got the gaskets on it. Everything is on the car, not to be removed again as far as this stuff goes. So it looks pretty good. Pretty happy with it. Got the car up and just went over some stuff this afternoon and ordered the remainder of the piping we're going to need for the downpipes. We're actually going to do some race mufflers on this car and kind of dump it underneath the car. That's what he wants. So got all that stuff on the way. So it'll be here the first part of next week, because we only have one more working day this week. So it'll be here Monday and we can continue on this journey. We're back on Jimmy's today and we're working on the downpipes now. The flanges are off, but I'll just show you what we kind of ran into. My piece of pipe that I have fit is across the shop, but I'll just show you with this one. So me and Jimmy went back and forth about the wastegate placement, and I originally had them a little bit up higher and he wanted them down a little bit lower, but it's always a first instinct that I kind of see things in the future. And here we've got interference if we just come straight off the turbo with a standard radius bend and stay parallel with the manifolds. But no big deal, because we've got these little short 45 elbows here. And we're going to clock it slightly down and then come back up. So it's actually putting it more on plane of the manifold instead of it being up higher. So pretty quick to adapt that to still look really great in the end. And that's what I'm doing over here. Got our purge set up. I'm going to weld the elbows to the flanges. Now, I use this to weld V-bands. A lot of people ask how to keep V-bands from warping. This is how. This is my redneck contraption. I've got a 2.5 and I've got a 3. And what we do, we just clamp it to the other flange. Now I always put the female flanges on my fixture. That way I can use something with a locating ring, or I can do female to female and it's not something in the way. It don't really matter, you're just using this for a heat sink. You don't need any super special heat sinks to do this. Just don't weld it super hot and just clamp it to a mating flange. That's all you really need to do to keep these things square. Up underneath, I've got some aluminum foil stuffed in there. Sometimes I don't even purge these. A lot of people, you know, they're getting full penetration on the flange, but look at this here. If you've got an 1/8 of an inch nearly of engagement into a flange, you know, I don't really see the need to fully penetrate the weld all the way around. I've never had one break at the flange right there because it wasn't all the way penetrated, because the tube is supported whenever it's down in the flange like that, and the weld is pretty much just to hold it from coming out and to seal the air off. But the support side to side is actually the flange itself. So I'm gonna let Ethan man the camera today, and I'm gonna weld these things up. Tungsten stuck out like that far, you have to really flow the gas like to get it covered like I want. So if I've got enough room, I usually suck it up about like that, even with one of these 12 cups. Usually I flow about 10. It don't matter if it's a little part like this or if it's a big part. I usually just put the regulator on 10 and let it eat. But it's one down. Let's do another one. Trucking along with the down pipes. We've got both sides started. They both match. They're running parallel with the manifolds on both sides. They're also matching the angle. So the digital angle finders are kind of hard to read whenever they're sideways like this, so we set this up at 0 on the manifold, and then we matched it at 0 on there. So both are running at the same angle, so everything will kind of look uniform. So now we're going to get the car up in the air, and I'm probably going to do the rest of it from the bottom as far as getting that dove down. I might do some from the top, I don't know, but whatever gives me a better feel and a better visual of how it's going to go, because the idea, let me set this down. The idea is to get it to go to the inside from here. That way when he turns his tire, the tire doesn't get into it, which is going to be pretty close, but I think we can get right down through that corner right here. You can see, kind of dark down there, but go through that corner, and once we get underneath, we've made it. We've got these race mufflers we're going to put on it. These are from Vibrant. We could have bought some $20 Dynamax race mufflers, but they only offer those in aluminized. So I wanted to keep it all stainless on this, since it's such a nice car. So these were about 4 times the money, but keeps the quality. Fast forward a little bit, and we are under the car nearly now. So what I ended up doing here is I took 3 inches off of this straight. This allowed me to use a long radius bend here and pull this back away, and then the leftover from this one that I have on both sides, so I have 2 identical copies of it, I put down there as a kick to get away from the frame. So from there we'll put a slight bend on the bottom of that, then you'll have the muffler and a turnout, which is what he wants. But we turn the tire all the way, and through the full suspension cycle we've got clearance with the tire, like big time clearance, like that far. So there's no chance the tire is going to hit the downpipe no matter how tight he turns it, or how much the suspension bumps. You can see how it comes down. We'll probably turn it pretty hard right there, if not cut just a little bit of length off of this leg here to back it up, to keep the ground clearance as much as we can. And as pretty as this thing is underneath, unfortunately we're going to have to put some type of exhaust hanger for those downpipes, because if we don't, when the car is idling, they're going to look like one of the door springs that you played with when you were a kid. So Ethan's back there cutting the 3 inches off of this side, and we've got all the other pieces over here already ready. So when he gets that, I'll get those tacked on, and we'll be almost complete with the downpipes today. Cody's been working on the wastegate dump tubes this morning. This is the driver's side, and I'll show you the passenger side since it's easier to get on. But we've got some flex bellows. They're the ones with the inner liner. Got them welded directly to the wastegate or tacked in to mock up. And these are going to dump directly into the downpipes. See, we've got it marked there. So that's going to go right there. So we got both sides fit, or Cody's got both sides fit and marked. Now we're going to take the downpipes off, take them over to the plasma, blow these holes in it, get them cleaned up, and get everything back on the car. And then mock all this stuff up, tack it half a dozen times around each connection, and then take it off and weld everything up. Been working on the downpipes today, and the goal was to have some sort of exhaust on this car. So when he come, he said he wanted it ran as far back as it would with the floor of the car and stuff like that, the way it is. So what we've done is come down, and you got this to kind of work around where the body mount is, and then you've got these channels and stuff on the bottom of the floor. So come out right here and then come out here to get going in line with the frame. I could have sucked it in right here, took up some of that gap, but then I would have had to come underneath this, and right now the pipe is kind of up the side of it, so I've got more height that I can get because of that, because I'm not dead underneath it. So kind of using that to my advantage. But coming down, got it all mocked up in position, and then it follows the frame rail all the way back till it eventually turns out here. The reason why we turned it out here is because the rear floorboards start here. So if you come, 5 more inches, you're going to be against the floor here with the elevation of the pipe, because the floor comes down. So we wanted to get the pipe as far as we could back, but keep it as high as we could, because this thing is bagged, and when he sets it on the ground, it's going to be laying really low. So I didn't want the exhaust to be really below the frame at all, even though it kind of is right here, just a hair. the transmission's really the lowest point still yet. It's got both sides mocked up. They're kind of hanging on the end because this tape's all that's holding them. But the process of doing this is I did this side first and I got everything mocked up. Well, because both sides of the turbo kit where the downpipes come out are pretty much mirrored, I was able to copy this angle and then copy this angle, transfer them over here, and that's going to give me my same layout. But I double checked that because I measured from the pinch weld here to where the end of the pipe is, and we've got the exact measurement on both sides, so I know it's running the same. You're never going to get it exactly the same, no matter, I mean, you can get the lasers out, you can talk all this detailed talk, but you're never going to get both sides exactly the same. You want it to get so close that somebody can't tell that there's any difference. That's the ultimate goal. So that's what we've done here. So now what I'm doing, I'm going to take this off and get these all tacked together in preparation to weld all this. This is going to be one continuous pipe from the turbo all the way to the tip. I'm doing this because it's going to be mounted up there. Obviously, you got the wastegate is hooked to it as well. We're going to have one exhaust hanger right here on the end, and look at there. Conveniently, we've got two, looks like 5/16 threaded holes on both sides, right there at the end. So probably going to use those hangers like from Stainless Works or something that come in from the side and have a little round bushing. That way they're really supported. They're not just a floppy hanger. They're something that's going to hold the tip still, and then it's just going to like free float the rest of the way up. This pipe's not very long. There's not, you know, a ton of weight there, so you can see our tape is separating there while I'm sitting here talking. It's about to hit the floor. But what I was going to tell you before I take this apart, I put 3 marks just in a random order. When I got so many pieces like this, I do dots. So 1 dot, 1 dot, 3 marks. This is the same way. I've got under the tape, you can barely see right there, got 2 dots, 3 marks, 2 dots. Over here, I've got 3 dots, 3 marks. Now, even though these are straight pieces, I still mark them, because before I weld the rest of the pipe up, I'm going to take this tip over on the bench with this muffler and weld the tip to the muffler, then bring the mufflers back over here and put them on the pipe and set the rotation. Or I might even do that very last, so I might have to take the pipe on and off several times, but this needs to be the last thing I do in case something changes and the rotation gets off. So I've got the tips put in there as far as I want them. I've marked those, and I mean, you get the idea. Just mark your rotations, especially if you've got that many joints, because you don't want something to move. So that's what I'm going to do now. Let's just take these mufflers and these tips over to the bench and get the tips welded on, and then I can bring them back over here and adjust the rotation. Make sure if you're using these race mufflers to get your weld on the top, which this one is not. I'll have to rotate this, but this one the weld is. You can see it's right there, so out of sight. You don't want to have to look at that. So let's take it apart, get the weld. came back in here and put some V-band connections about halfway down through the down pipes, just to make it a little bit easier on Jimmy to get these things lined up. Not necessarily installed, because this whole thing, you take the tire off and the whole thing comes out of here really easy. But these turbos, they don't have any locating ring up there, and getting the pipe kind of centered on the turbo on the V-band, and just there's a lot going on to try to do it with the whole pipe length here. So put a connection there, that was easy. We just put this thing in the bandsaw and cut 7/8 of an inch out and just stuck the V-band in there and welded it up, so nothing really changed. But what I was going to show you under here is these trick little exhaust hangers that I just put on. So these are some that I measured up and let Joey do his magic on the computer. He drew these up. We had them laser cut and bent. So this frame rail on both sides, or this framing, had these 5/16 threaded holes already in the frame right here. I don't know if it was originally for the exhaust or what was it for, but either way, they're in the same location on both sides. So measured one bracket, just mirrored the pattern, and we got the other side. Puts the tips at the same spot according to the frame, and it worked magically. So these little bushings, they're just standard stuff you get from Summit, so if there ever was to get worn out or burnt or something like that, he could easily find them. But nice, secure on the back of the down pipes now. Plus it's super easy to mount up. Just get a couple of these bolts started and then come up here, click it together, put the clamp, and then just come back here and snug the bolts up. The user friendly is what we like. I'm glad that turned out good. You can see me welding it on the time lapse there, if I remember to put it on the screen. So the next thing we're going to look at is mounting the water tank right here, and Cody's already got that assembled. We'll go over here and look at it. We haven't gotten any tabs on it yet because we don't know where we're going to put them, but we measured for the tank, made a cardboard template, and this is it. So it turned out really nice. We've got 12 inlet and outlet. Of course, this inlet, if I can get the lid off, the ring's kind of tight. So on our ice tanks that have like a external pump, we always put a tank strainer. So we haven't got it put on here yet. That little barb fitting down there, it'll have a basket strainer on it to stop it from sucking chunks of ice through the fitting and getting into the pump. So we built it in preparation to put that on there. His intercooler setup from Tick goes under the intake. You've seen it already. It's got 12 ORBs is the size, so we did 12s on everything, so it would match up with that. Got it tucked in there now. Got one tab against the core support, another one back here under the fender, and then we've got one way down in there against the only flat lip that there is. So this is mounted to the front end, not any part of the frame or anything, because if you haven't noticed in some of the video clips, we have a wood block here that simulates the bushings that this whole front end sits on, and in case there's any variance in that, we wanted this tank only mounted to the front end. That way it can float up and down if he gets the thing final mounted and it ends up being in a little bit different spot. So inlet, outlet to the pump down there. There's the strainer that we put on the ice tanks, so sometimes when they have external pump, Davies Craig black pump. He got this from Tick whenever he bought the intercooler, but it'll be up to him to mount that pump. I know there's a lot of plumbing and different things that's going to go into this car, so we're not going to mount that, but we did get the tank in place since that's a little bit more involved. But fits nice in there, got plenty of tire clearance, so should be good to go. So the last thing we've got to do on this car is mount the heat exchangers, and we've got one of them sitting in here kind of to show you. But we got these online. We did some searching just trying to find some that would fit in this area behind the grill, and we found these, and you can see how it sits right on that flat area there, which he's got to bring us a new piece here to mock up, because this one's beat up and dented at the bottom and got this whole area right here jacked up, so we're not going to be able to really mount these accurately until he brings us the new piece. But this is the last thing left. You can see, looking in the front, you're going to get some real good airflow through the grill. And really, if you're going to run an air to water setup for a street car, I mean, the thought of having any ice in anything is kind of far-fetched. So you're not going to have any ice more than about 2 minutes, and the ice is going to be gone, the water's going to be getting hot. So you need to have some type of heat exchanger to keep the heat pulled out of the water, to keep the temperature down in the intercooler. And that's where these are going to come in. But nice little pieces, cast tanks, so they're threaded on both sides, so that allows for easy mounting. Got some big 16 ORB inlets and outlets, so that'll be good because this setup actually uses 12 ORB, so he can just get a step fitting that goes from 16 ORB to a 12, and he'll keep everything the same size because we've got these are 12s also. We'll just hook them in a chain, you know, it'll go in one and go out the other, and it should cool it relatively nicely. So pretty happy with the way it's turned out. Almost done. So we've got Jimmy's car moved out to the front here because we didn't have to have it on the lift anymore. We needed to move some stuff around, but we've got the heat exchangers mounted now, and they turned out really nice. Joey is very good at measuring for brackets and stuff like that. Kind of when there's nothing there, come over here and kind of plotted everything out on paper and drew these brackets up based on how I had the coolers kind of mocked up. See, they bolt back to the core support, bolt to the coolers. Then we have a connection bracket that ties them both together behind where the hood latch is there. Still has plenty of clearance for that. And we've got one over here. I come back and used a piece that we had in the back to tie into this for a center support, because even though they're all tied together, these are pretty heavy and it's still a lot of weight kind of bouncing like that, so I wanted them to be supported. You see the holes down the bottom we trimmed out so the lines and stuff can come up from the bottom and hook onto these. That should have the very best airflow scenario possible to make these things work the way they're supposed to. We just got a message from Jimmy this morning. He's coming down to pick this thing up. He's got a car show up at his shop this weekend, and he wants to have this thing out there on display, so maybe whenever he picks it up we'll get this thing on video running, because we've not fired it up yet, and he drove it in here, and since we've got all the plumbing and stuff hooked up, we should be good to fire up and drive out of here. Something else that we did, the pump here is hooked directly to the tank. Obviously he'll have to get the rest of the lines and stuff on there, but this pump really isn't that heavy, so I think it'll be fine. Just hook it straight to the tank like that on the suction side. But he's got a lot of plumbing to run. There's a wrench laying there. Don't want to leave that there. Look, some other tools. Again, pretty satisfied with how everything turned out. He's got plenty of room for everything. Everything comes apart really easy. So yeah, that pretty much wraps this up. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down below. I try to go back on these videos and get involved with you guys in the comment section as much as I can, as much as I have time for. So look forward to bringing you another build video soon. Thanks for watching. Rock-solid-motorsports.com for all of our products.